All right, what's going on, good people? It's your boy Warren here with the Black Enlightenment app. Today we have a very, very, very special guest for our first episode of Travel Fridays, where we highlight Black on travel, Black on travel groups. We talk about Black travel in our discussion. So we have a good friend here, my good friend, the homie Ashley. So I'm gonna allow her to introduce herself, and then we're gonna kick it off and get it going. So please go ahead, Ashley.
Thank you so much, Warren, and I appreciate you having me. My name is Ashley Douglas, and I am an avid Black traveler.
All right, so let's kick it off. So, if I'm not mistaken, let me make sure I pronounce it correctly. You are a part of the Black travel group called Nomadness, correct?
Yes. Shout out to Avita Robinson, who is the founder, a Black woman, of a group called Nomadness, which is a worldwide travel advocacy group, and a group that really kind of works to just kind of pave the pathway, honestly, for Black travelers all over the world. It's an amazing network that works to connect people all over the world. Folks can drop a bat signal to let anybody know where they are and see if there are other tribe members there that can either help or just kind of meet up and get a chance to know one another. So she's built a fantastic community of thousands of Black travelers all over the world and expats and everything of that sort, to just kind of connect us all. And I think that's what really aligns all of the interests there is travel. And so it's a really cool, amazing group. We have a local chapter here in Dallas. Shout out to Dallas Nomadness that I am a part of as well, where we kind of just, it's truly a community. It's like a family. And so, and we're all connected and bound together forever by travel.
So let me ask you this, because I love to travel, me and my wife. But what was the response when the pandemic hit?
The pandemic kind of really stopped everything in its tracks, right? And so as just an individual traveler, it was devastating. I am a person who generally likes to travel out of the country 2-3 times a year, on average. And so I think for those of us who are avid travelers who travel for more than just leisure, right? Like, for example, I travel a lot for culture, for the immersion into culture, to learn more about local cultures. And it's really an exploration type of thing for me. And so the pandemic has been really devastating because it stopped us all in our tracks. None of us were able to go anywhere or do anything outside of the US, which there are some really amazing places in the country as well to explore. And so it was, it was different. It was different. And I think it was difficult. Now that we are kind of in a place now where we're starting to see people move back around and be open to traveling and exploring, we are, kind of in a more comfortable space, I think, where people are more willing to travel. But, just like on every other industry, I think that, travel was devastated by the pandemic.
So speaking of traveling, every time they always ask, what's one of the favorite places you visited, and what's one of the places you haven't checked off yet, but you're going to go. So let me start with the first one. Out of all the places you've been so far, and it can be with the Nomadness travel group or even just if you solo dolo, what would be your favorite travel destination?
I really, this question really drives me insane because I feel like every place is so different, and you have such different experiences from all different realms, right? And so I've had the pleasure of going to 6 of our 7 continents. I haven't been to Antarctica yet, but I think that, it's kind of really hard to say a favorite place. I am all about sort of cultural connections. And so I felt those very strongly in places like Morocco and Brazil, and in different places like that. When I went to Bali, got a chance to kind of immerse there. So, it's really all contingent. But it's just all about the vibes and the feels for me. I started traveling, I think, pretty young. I was 21 when I first went out of the country.
Yeah.
And, that's progressed. And I ended up getting an opportunity to study abroad and lived in Germany for a summer. And I just never, even back then, which, we're talking 2011, 2010, it was crazy for me at that time, being a 23-year-old graduate student, going to a common place, what I would consider common, like Germany.
Yeah.
And I'm the only, Black face that I see, on this study abroad trip. Right. And so it's always been an area of interest. And so I think each place kind of holds a special place in my heart and in my memory every time I get a chance to go explore.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. I heard Morocco is nice. I haven't been to Bali yet, but I heard that is nice as well. So I got to ask you this as well. So if somebody coming up and they're young, because one thing I love about Nomadness is that you guys travel in groups. So somebody, if they just want to go to a trip but don't want to go by themselves, they can join the Nomadness travel group and travel as well. So I know you said things I've kind of gotten a little bit looser now, but people can it's more easier to get into. So is that still the case to where people can just come fill out an application to be a part of the group? Is there a fee or anything tied to it?
So there is not a fee. And I have personally not traveled. All of my travels have been kind of just self-planned and self-planned and kind of put together by myself. I have actually not had the pleasure of going on a Nomadness trip. I am a more intimate, small travel group type of girl. And so I'd like to have the freedom to plan my own thing. But there has not been a fee to be a member of Nomadness. And I think that still remains true. I think that I would encourage folks to go check out the social media, Instagram, Nomadness Travel Tribe, and on Facebook as well, to get some more information about how you can engage with that travel group. And there are also several others, right? There are, individuals, like I love one of my favorite travel folks, Instagram folks on her Instagram. Her name is Broke Ass Travel Girl, and she's great. Mally, shout out to Mal, who is great at finding travel deals. There are a number of resources out there for Black travelers and folks who are interested in becoming part of the Black travel community. Okay,
so what's some advice starting out young? Because I know when I first started, especially going international, I didn't know what to expect. So I had to reach out to a couple older cousins about getting your passport and stuff like that. What's some advice that you would give out to those first time travelers? Would you tell them to go off the beaten path? Or would you tell them to go straight to the locals and get the local food and really get in and dive in and mix in with the local people? What? Because sometimes when I meet people, they say stay on the beaten path, don't get off and don't wander off. But what would you say to those young people who just starting to travel? Because like you said, I know COVID was serious and everything, but looking at the news, everything about to open wide back open. So it's here, and a lot of countries are starting to drop their restrictions. I know Mexico doesn't have any restrictions. You got a couple countries in Europe that's going to drop theirs. Jamaica is starting to loosen up on theirs. So it's getting to the point to where countries are starting to loosen things back up. It's going to eventually be like it was 2 or 3 years ago before the pandemic broke out. So what's some advice you'll give to those first time travelers going international of what they should do, and even talk about some excursions of what you should kind of get into when you're out there traveling on that first trip?
Yeah. So, travel is really, I classify it. It's almost an art form, right? I think that it is very much so indicative and reflective of the individual and the person. My travel tends to be extremely eclectic in style, right? And so I am not the person that you're going to find near anything touristy. I am always off the beaten path. Take me to where the locals are, where I can learn about the local culture, immerse me in where I am. That is the type of traveler that I am. I always have been. I want to eat the local food. Like I don't want to go to a chain. I don't want to go to a McDonald's while I'm in any other countries. Although McDonald's in other countries is way better than it is.
It's real different. Man, it's crazy. Yes. Man, it's crazy. I'm sorry to interrupt you. It is crazy how different it is in other countries. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I would encourage new travelers to just kind of be open and expect the unexpected. I think that, oftentimes we have sort of, social media in a lot of ways has really, diminished the way that we view or think about travel. It's really luxurized the travel world, especially Black travel. And I think that Black luxury travel is fantastic, but it is one way to travel. There are plenty and a plethora of other ways to consider traveling. I would always tell people to just be open, be ready to expect the unexpected and to go with the flow. Because a lot of times, especially when you are in someone else's territory that you are unfamiliar with, it's natural to kind of want to go along with the grain, and fit in. That's never been my style personally, but I think that it's really important to just have an open mind, and be ready and open to experience some things that are not in alignment or familiar to what you're generally accustomed to. So that would be the biggest piece of advice that I could give. And then the other part of that would be to just go. I think that people are always like, what made you? A couple of years ago, I went to Guatemala and it was the most fantastic time. That's not a country that a lot of people would want to or be eager to go to, because you don't think about luxury when you think about Guatemala, right? Or you don't think about, the traditional standards of travel when you think about a country like Guatemala. But it was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. The culture was extremely vibrant. And so just be open to, what you can experience. Absolutely go check out some of the major, world, the wonders of the world and things of that nature. I went to Peru and had a great time there going to explore Machu Picchu. But I was also, when night fell, I was where the locals were, and I was partying where the locals were, and so just be open to that and be just kind of ready to explore things that may be
Yeah, that's true. Cause I know the last big trip that I took, we was in Fiji. And when I say we was up in the mountains with the locals, I mean, we was up there. So we ate the local food.
Yes, Fiji. Those are where our people are. Our people are in Fiji.
Yeah. We was up in the mountain with the food. And I mean, you just taste the naturalness of it to where it was homegrown. It was unlike any other. Oh man, that is great. Let me see. I think that's kind of pretty much just how I want to pick your brain a little bit, because I know travel is one of those things that, like you said, you got the luxury travel. That's the new and upcoming thing. But it's so many different ways and different things you can get into in travel. So, what is the next city or continent that you're going to, or country that you're going to, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so I'm actually headed in a couple of weeks to Portugal. Okay. I think I probably shared with you that I am also a part-time high-end chef, and so I love exploring local food cultures and doing various culinary experiences. So I'm gonna take some time and go to Portugal and dive in on some of the culinary aspects there, and also dive into the port wine world. So really excited for that coming up.
Okay, Portugal. Okay, I haven't been to that one either, but I heard that one is nice. But here lately, everybody been going to, all my friends been going to Tulum in Mexico.
Oh gosh,
that's where everybody been going. That one in
Tulum is tired. Okay.
They don't wore it out. Oh, I said Tulum. Yeah. It's Tulum. That's how you pronounce it? It's Tulum.
Well, a lot of people say Tulum. That's generally how I've heard it pronounced, but which is great. I think it's so crazy because I was actually just in a really off the beaten path part of Mexico in December, a small little town called Hobach. And it was the most amazing little paradise, ducked off. You had to get there by ferry. And I was talking to some of the locals, and they were saying how a few years ago, Tulum was very kind of similar, right? Like off the beaten path. Nobody really knew about it. And we saw it kind of really blow up, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah, it just came out of nowhere, right? I never heard of it either. The only part I heard of was Of course, you hear of Cancun. That's the given. You hear of Los Cabos. So you hear of Cabo, and then what was the other one? You hear of Tijuana, of course, but you hear that one for other reasons. But yeah, it just kind of blew up, and I'm like, why everybody's going there? So
Yep.
I guess.
But then also you have like Mexico City, which is a huge culinary destination, right? And so there's so much to do, see, eat, and experience. Like a lot of times people skip over places like that because Cancun might be a little bit more popular for what you envision travel to be, right? And so it's all about perspective. It's all about how you think about it, what your goals are. But I would always recommend that, you know, folks go and to experience some culture.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. I'm gonna ask you this one last question. What's the kind of if you can summarize it, what's the perfect day trip? Should you at least go 3 days, or 2 days, 3 nights, or 4 days? 4 nights, 5 days. What you think is the perfect time to go on the trip to where you can get most of the experience while you're there? Because I know, of course, most people just can't go nowhere for 2 months. You gotta get back to work and all this.
Yeah.
So what's the kind of the perfect time frame for people, especially if they just starting out?
Yeah, I think if people are just starting out, and I think that's all contingent, right? And so it really depends on what all you're trying to see, especially if you're just kind of creeping out of your comfort zone of traveling and moving around. I would say give it, especially if you're going somewhere a little bit far. It depends on how long you have to travel as well, because that's a big part that plays into it. On whether or not you have to take a day for travel off and then a day for return off as well. And so I would say give it at least 5 days.
5 days.
Give a place 5 days, especially if you're on a different time zone. I would a little bit more than that. And if it's more than I would say if it's more than a 6 or 7 hour flight, you might want to look in that 7 to 9 day time frame. But if you're going somewhere that you can get to in 4 or 5 hours, I think that 5 days is a good amount of time to just kind of experience it. Get a chance to research some local culture and really go out and, kind of hit the ground and do a little bit of everything, activities, some relaxation, some exploration, all of those things. I think that's probably a good amount of time. And I personally, I'm a 10-day girl, right?
Oh,
and so what that means is if I go somewhere far, I took a girls trip back in 2016 and we went on, there was a group of 6 of us, which is a lot of people, right?
Yeah, that's a big trip.
Travel. That's a lot of people.
That's a big trip. That's a real big trip.
That's a big trip. But we got a chance. We went to 4 or 5 countries. And we were gone right at 2 weeks. And so, with the moving around and with the exploring and things of that nature, by that day 10 and 11, we were biting each other's heads off at that point. It was time to get back home. And so I like to say I'm a 10, 12 day girl. After that, it's about time to wrap this up. But yeah, that's also from somebody who's been traveling for quite some time.
Yeah, that's a big group. I usually don't. Yeah,
yeah. We had, you know what? And it was a blast. Let me tell you, it was funny. It was it was like all of the feelings that you could think of wrapped up in one trip. It was an experience. I don't know if I'd ever do it again, but it was certainly something to experience. It was a lot of good laughs. We had a fantastic time. We got a chance to explore 4 or 5 different countries. And so it was a really good time. But, after that day 10, we were all pretty tired of one another. So. Yeah.
Well, hey, that's pretty much all I had. So we definitely appreciate you coming in, giving us your great experience about traveling. I'm looking forward to it because it's been a long 2 to 3 years with this pandemic, and I know a lot of people are excited, and some people already even started. Because my cousin told me that Colombia, they're back open to where it's no restrictions. So, you have anything else you would like to add?
No, I appreciate you for having me. I hope this was informative and helpful, and I just would encourage everybody to go out there. There's a big world out here to explore, make sure you take some time to go see it and enjoy it.
All right, y'all. We're going to sign off from there. Until next time.